episode for you. We're going to get into some details on the real estate market. And a lot of people want to know what's happening with commercial and residential real estate. Are you a homeowner that wants to know, are you going to be able to sell your house? Are you a potential home buyer? You want to know if the market's going to be crazy forever. What's going on with interest rates? The other big subject in the news this week are electric vehicles. Whether or not you think you're interested in electric vehicles or not, you have a vehicle. You have to have a car to get around. The reality is that electric vehicles may be part of your life, whether you like it or not. You may not have a choice in participating in the electric vehicle market. And even outside of your transportation, electric vehicles may affect everything from your employment, your residence, your taxes. And we'll talk about how that's happening and what is in store for electric vehicles. And last, or not quite last, but we're going to talk about AI and how that's affecting the job market, what is going on behind the scenes with things like Chat GPT and regenerative type AI tools, and how that's affecting the economy. And in our last segment, we'll talk about legal conflicts, mediation, investigations, asset searches. Everybody at some point in their life has some type of legal issue. Might be a divorce, a death in the family, probate, might be a lawsuit, might be a small claims. Something happens where you have to interact with the court. And we're going to look at things that celebrities do to make that easier that maybe you can do as well. But obviously, what's on everybody's mind this day and age is real estate. And in the real estate industry, there's a lot of things going on. One is commercial real estate, and that may not affect you as much. You may not think that's a big issue. However, in the city that you live, a big city, small town, there is commercial real estate. And right now, there's trouble in the commercial real estate industry. Empty office space could be bad news for real estate owners and banks. So, one of the largest investments which are made by banks is commercial real estate. They don't invest as much anymore in residential real estate. That's all government, Fannie Mae type backed loans. So the federal government backs the residential real estate. So small banks don't have a stake as much anymore in residential single family homes, but they do put a lot of money behind commercial real estate. In fact, since they don't really have the ability to invest in residential real estate, they put all their money in commercial because they have to put their money somewhere. The money that the banks have, they have to put their capital into investments that make them a return because they have costs. They have to pay their rent, their electricity, their employees, all the things that go into running a bank, they have to pay. And the only place they get income is from charging people interest on loans for the most part. And sometimes they get participation in consumer loans like credit cards. But that's small potatoes. They have to put their money somewhere. So commercial real estate is a big place for it to go. What happens when commercial real estate declines? Here's the difference with commercial versus residential. When you get a 30-year loan on your house, your loan is for 30 years locked in at an interest rate, end of story. Commercial real estate resets every few years. You don't normally get a 30-year mortgage or loan on commercial real estate. Typically, it is for either interest only with a balloon in 3 to 5 years. It may be amortized for 20 years, but with a reset after 3 to 5 years. So these commercial properties have to go back to the market every few years and get a new loan. Well, if their property value has gone down or their income statement doesn't support the amount that they had on their old loan, then what happens? If you have a building that, let's say, is worth $10 million and you have $9 million financed on it because you need 10% down, and now because of vacancy factor, rents have gone down, work from home, maybe now the income only supports a $7.2 million loan. Well, you go back to your bank and you say, look, I need to refinance my property. In the past, they would just rubber stamp it, give you the same amount of money you had on your loan, maybe the interest, but then they see your income is lower. Well, now what? Well, now what you have to do is either write a check to cover the difference in equity, or you have to give the bank your building. Banks don't want real estate. Banks are going to start losing money on these commercial properties. Banks into market. But for now, res is booming. Booming how much? Um, well, booming so much that you're seeing lumber where lumber producers and mills going through the roof. Sawmills and wood producers have big winners in the recovery of residential construction. Housing starts rose 22% higher since the Fed began rising rates. So here's the thing. When interest rates went up, a lot of builders figured, hey, man, no one's going to be want to buying a house. But they were wrong. And Wall Street and the investors thought builders would need less lumber, and they were wrong, because now the lumber producers are running short again. Wood products firms were among the stars of the stock rally, and they slumped, but now they're back up again. You can see all green arrows on all the major producers. Weyerhaeuser, Boise Cascade, right? They're all through the roof. This is partially because of the housing market. Everybody wants to know what's going to happen with residential real estate. It all comes down to inventory. Interest rates are part of it. If you have a buyer who qualifies for a certain amount based on their income, let's say they're qualified for $3,200 for a mortgage payment. Sounds like a pretty average mortgage payment for a lot of people. Well, 4 years ago, that might have bought you maybe a $500,000 or $600,000 house. Now it might buy you a $300,000 house because of the mortgage rates. It doesn't change the fact that people still need to buy a house and want to buy a house. Early on, when the rates went up, a lot of buyers said, I'm not buying. I can't afford the house I want. I was in the market for, $500,000 house. I was approved for that. But now I can only afford a 320 house. I don't want to buy a 320 house. It's not what I want. I already got in my head that I want this $500,000 house. So the market eased off a little bit. At the same time, the sellers that own these houses said, I'm not selling my house. If I sell my house, I have to ditch my mortgage, and my mortgage is 3%. So if I have to buy another house, I have to pay now 6, 7, 7.2%. Forget that. So buyers and sellers are both kind of abandoning the market. However, who needs to do something more, the buyer or the seller? Well, for now, the buyer needs to do something more. The buyers are more interested in buying a house than sellers are selling it. Most sellers out there are not in distress. Even if housing prices go down, that does not put pressure on a current owner. That's what a lot of people misunderstand about the housing market. They feel like if housing prices are crashing even, which they're not, but if they were, that's going to put pressure on homeowners. It doesn't put any pressure on them. If anything, it gives them one more reason not to sell the house. If you have a house and the price is going up, that might be an incentive. Hey, man, I can get all this money and I'm going to sell the house. If the price goes down, that's not that give you any pressure to sell it. It's not like your payment went up. It's not like it makes your income go lower. The price of the house, the market of a house, doesn't put any immediate pressure on the seller to do anything. The current owner, I should say. The fluctuation in the housing market puts zero pressure on a current owner. The only pressure it might put on them is if the price is going up and it's crazy, they might say, I'm stupid not to sell at this high price. But even then, they have to go buy something else at another high price. So it's kind of like once you start looking at it, doesn't put pressure. In fact, when housing prices go down, in some ways might ease the financial burden on the current owner because your property tax is based on the assessed value of the house. So if the values are going down, you might not have as high of a tax bill. In reality, tax bills are not going to go down, right? Your property tax bill is not going to go lower, but it might keep it from going up as much as it would have otherwise, right? Now, there are other factors which could put pressure on a homeowner. It could be they lost their job. It could be their income went down. It could be that their expenses went up. They had a medical expense. But those are not related to the real estate market. Those are related to the overall economy or that person's own individual circumstances. And a current owner really is not going to have, in large numbers, current owners of houses, any incentive to sell their house unless there are extenuating circumstances about their finances. So what does that do? See, it talks about here in the article, the future of real estate inventory. Well, real estate inventory never changes. Real estate inventory stays the same. If anything, it goes up a little bit. Every year there's new homes being constructed, new subdivisions, they're building new homes. But the number of new homes is always running behind the number of people that want to buy homes, right? So it's never outpacing the new household formations or the new number of people that need homes. So inventory really never changes. But here's the thing. It talks about the scarcity of available homes. That's the key word, available. There's millions of houses out there. You can drive down the street and you see houses everywhere. But most of those houses are not available. Why are they not available? Because the person in it doesn't want to sell it. They don't want to sell it because they live there. They like it. If they want to move to get a bigger house or a different neighborhood or move to another city, that's great. But now they have to factor in that their mortgage rate's going to go up from 3% to 7%. And on a $600,000 house or $500,000 house, that can cost $1,000 a month more just for the same price house, not counting going up bigger. And most people don't want to do that for the same house. So real estate inventory is not really the problem. It's the available homes that's the problem, because the percentage of people wanting to sell their house is nobody wants to do it. Couple exceptions regionally. Half of California residents want to leave the state. Cost of living is the reason why. Now, here's the thing. This is residents. This is not necessarily homeowners. This is residents. So it's unclear what percentage of these people are renters and what percentage of these people are homeowners. And here's why that's important. If a lot of homeowners want to leave the state, then that would affect available homes, right? However, if these are renters, that could be part of the reason is because the housing price market is too high. If you're a renter and you want to buy a house and all you see are houses that are $1 million for a 1,500 square foot small lot house, you might be thinking, I love California, I want to stay here, but if I move to Nevada or Tennessee or Texas or Midwest, I can buy a 2,000 square foot house on a 1 acre piece of land for 500 grand, half price, right? And this is kind of what they refer to as cost of living, but it doesn't really tell you the whole picture. Cost of living are things like food, gasoline for your car, electricity, insurance. Yeah, those are probably going to be higher in California. But the big thing is the biggest expense you have is your real estate. And all the other expenses are going to be the same no matter where you live. your price for your car. Cars don't cost more in California than they do in Texas for the most part. Might be a little fluctuation, but a $42,000 car is going to be the same price in Florida, Texas, Ohio, wherever. So that's not the difference. If you want to leave California because of cost of living, it's not because your car price is different. Could your energy costs be higher? Maybe, but that's not a huge amount. Could your food price be? Yeah, a little bit. The biggest thing is residential, your cost of residential housing. If you are a homeowner who lives in a house that you bought already, you are not probably that California resident considering leaving the state because of cost. If it's because of cost of living, you might want to leave because of other reasons, but it's certainly not cost of living, because your cost of living stays the same. You already knew what it was. When you bought your house, your mortgage payment is $3,652. That's what it is. It's not changing. Unless you lost your job or your income went down, now cost of living is going to be a factor. But current homeowners, they are not probably leaving because of cost of living. Again, they may be leaving for other reasons, but not necessarily for the fact that their cost of living went up. Their gasoline for the car might have went up. Their insurance probably went up. If you're a homeowner, that could be a factor. If your homeowner's insurance sometimes is being taken away because of wildfires or natural disaster or what have you, but it's probably not going up to the point that it makes you want to move. That could be happening in Florida, but not in California. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to talk about electric vehicles, and whether you like it or not, they're going to affect your life in a big way. If you are a daily driver, you may find that you have to adapt to an EV lifestyle. Even if you can avoid that, you may have to adapt to an economy that's based on an EV lifestyle. So we take a quick break, be a message for about a minute, and we'll be back right on the other side.
Are you tired of automated systems and chatbots when you need assistance? Experience actualhuman.com and connect with real professionals, not automation. At actualhuman.com, we bring you a network of professionals who are excited to answer your questions and provide guidance. Getting started is easy. Let us show you how. Here's how it works. Step 1. Select the best date and time for your video call. Step 2. Describe your situation and the areas you're looking for advice. Step 3. Connect one-on-one with an expert and get the undivided attention that you deserve. Experience the difference. Visit actualhuman.com today and schedule your professional consultation. Actualhuman.com. Expert guidance from real people.
All right, we're back. And funny thing is, while we were gone, we had one of our insurance people sent us a really on-point article about the insurance market, which might be affecting homeowners, might be even affecting businesses. What's happening is U.S. property and casualty insurers are responding to inflation by rate increases when possible and exits when not. So what does that mean? So insurance companies, business, commercial lines, and personal lines, homeowners, are finding that their claims are going up so much because of inflation and because of other um, changes in the marketplace, that they can't afford to pay the claims, right? And what they're doing is they're halting new business and non-renewing other lines. So non-renewing means they're not canceling your policy. Look, if you have an annual policy for insurance, that policy runs through the end of the year and then it expires. And normally you would renew it. You would renew your policy. A non-renewal is when the insurance company says, no, we're not renewing that policy. They can't cancel it midterm in most cases, but they can non-renew it, and they don't have to take new policies. And so why would they be not able to do an rate increase or exits when not? Here's how insurance works. If you are what's called an admitted carrier, a company that is filed with the state that you're doing business in, with a license in that state, every year you file your policies, your endorsements, all your terms and conditions, along with your rates. And the government has to approve your policy and your rates. And if they think your rate is too high, they can say, no, you can't raise your rates. So if they can't get the rates that they need, they just exit. And they're also doing a lot more underwriting. Underwriting actions have extended to commercial property and personal auto lines, meaning that they're looking at these policies as being maybe losers, meaning that no matter what they charge for premium, they're not going to be able to pay out claims. So this came to us very, very recently, and it's kind of related to what we talked about before with real estate. Let's talk about electric vehicles. This is a big time issue with many consumers. Do you have to get an electric vehicle? Well, probably not. But what's happening is manufacturers are producing more EVs, and secretly, stealthily behind the scenes, maybe making that your only option. Right now, there are double the amount of EVs versus gas cars at dealerships. So if you go to a new car dealership, you're shopping for a car, you go in the door, you say, hey, I want to buy a car. If you did not plan on buying an EV, you might be faced with the fact that that dealership has half as many gas cars that you intended to go buy as they do electric vehicles. You have double the amount. So they might steer you towards that electric vehicle, because if you want the blue one with power windows and a sunroof, the only one they have is electric. And they're going to tell you why that's going to be good. They're selling tools, their selling method might be more towards EVs, right? Auto dealers are sitting on way more electric cars than they are gas powered ones. It also might be that's the one you get a discount on. Look, if you're a dealer and you have twice as many EVs as you have gas cars, and the customer wants a discount, what are you going to offer them? You're going to offer them the discount on the one you have too many of. It's called a field of dreams moment, meaning that field of dreams, of course, is if you build it, they will come. Well, they built them, but are the customers coming? Having more inventory means more test drive opportunities and better deals on EVs, that is, not on gas cars. So how does that affect you? If you are in the market for a car, you might find that it might be tough to find the gas car you want. It might be easy to find an EV in the configuration you want. It might be hard to find a gas car. Is that what you see in your dealership environment? If you go into the dealership in your town, or you drive by car stores, maybe you don't notice, but it might be worth pulling into that lot and seeing what they have. What do the EVs look like compared to gas cars? In fact, if you live in one of 14 states, California, Oregon, a bunch of other states, and you go to a Jeep dealer, you're going to find that that Jeep dealer is only being shipped EVs or hybrids. Jeep is no longer shipping gas vehicles to Jeep dealers in 14 states, only EVs or hybrids. So if you want a gas EV, they're not going to be on the lot. You still might be able to order one, but you can't test drive it. You can't see it, touch it, feel it, right? So that's a big difference you're going to find in the dealership environment. What about the market? Well, this is in Germany, but it's the same thing. Volkswagen to cut electric car production due to strong customer reluctance. Strong customer reluctance. But Germany, this is ahead of US, right? They may be seeing this slump before we do in this country. Ford is cutting jobs amid the EV push because the volume is lower than what they thought. So let's take a look at that. What if you're not in the market for a car right now? What if you're planning on being in the market for a car in 2 years or 3 years? Think about this. If the dealerships have twice as many EVs versus gas right now, in 2 years, what is that number going to be like? Is it going to be 4-to-1 ratio, 5-to-1 ratio? If that's going to be the case, and you're thinking about buying in 2 years, you might want to accelerate your purchase decision to now so that you can get a gas vehicle that you want. Because in 2 years, there might not be hardly any gas vehicles, maybe very limited models, maybe not equipment packages you want, maybe not the exact, make and model that you want. You might have to be selective. So if you're going to be in the market, you might want to do that. On the other hand, if you would consider at least a hybrid has gas and electric plug-in, maybe then what you do is you wait a little longer, because if it's a 2-to-1 ratio now, in 2 years, it might be a 4-to-1 ratio. You might even get a better deal on electric vehicle than you would on gas. What about the value of your current car? Well, if you have a gas car, what's the value going to be in a few years if everything's going to EV? Is it going to be higher, lower? Are there going to be more people wanting gas cars if they can't get them at a dealership? Maybe it's going to be lower because the market for used EVs is going to get cheaper. So even if you're not in the market for a vehicle right now, knowing about all this turmoil in the automotive industry is important to plan for. Regardless, we would recommend looking at any opportunity you have to put a vehicle plug for a plug-in electric vehicle in your garage at your house. Here's why. Someday you're going to need it. Someday the next owner of your house is going to need it. If you do it over a period of time that's not rushed, but it's comfortable, it'll be a lot cheaper. If you buy an EV and all of a sudden you got to call the electrician and, hey, come out and put it in, it can cost a couple $1,000s, several $1,000s. If you call up a electrician in your town and say, look, whenever you get a free moment, if you're in the area, I want to just add a circuit to my fuse box, my power inlet box. And that may save you a trip charge. It's only going to take them about an hour to run 2 wires from 2 circuits for a 240-volt system to a box. You don't even have to put a plug in it. Have them wire it to a blank empty box with a cover on it. Or if you're having other electrical work done on your house, or one of your neighbors is, have them just throw that wire in there. It'll be really cheap, a couple $100 maybe. And then when it comes time to get the plug, you can buy a plug on Amazon, from one of the electrical supply houses, from Home Depot. And that's something that if you wanted to, you could wire it yourself or call the electrician back. That's easy to do. Put 2 wires in, you're good to go. Either way, do that. How is it going to affect the rest of the market? Well, you might see this affecting the economy because of road taxes. What about road taxes? Most of the money that pays for fixing bridges, repaving roads, doing repairs to streets comes from gasoline taxes. So when you fill up your car with gas, your cost per gallon has a tax built into it from your state government of 4 cents, 10 cents, some states are 20, 30 cents, and they take that money and they use it to fix roads. Well, if more cars go to EV, there's no road tax. And now they're looking to switch over. Maybe you have to pay a mileage tax on EVs. Maybe they're going to add it to electricity, but that's going to take a while to do that transition. In the meantime, road taxes are already going down. Even during the pandemic, when people bought less gas because they weren't driving as much, the road taxes went down. Look, in the state of Oregon, there was an article that came out yesterday. They have run out of money to fix roads. Literally, the headline says Oregon has run out of money to fix roads. A little bit more to it than that, but the bottom line is that the public sector budget is going to be affected by electric vehicles. Other parts of the economy could be affected. Things like travel. If people go on trips and they spend money at restaurants and hotels and roadside stands and farmers markets when they're traveling, if you have an EV and now you have to stop for 2 hours to recharge and you don't have that extra time, those mom and pop businesses are going to have less income, less sales taxes, and that could affect the economy. So even if you're not directly buying an EV and that could affect you, remember that it can come back in other ways to your life. So next, we're going to talk about artificial intelligence, AI. How is it affecting the economy? How is it affecting your employment? How is it going to affect your employment? Let's take a look. According to many experts, this is not just a flash in the pan. It's not all hype. It's the fourth industrial revolution playing out. Just starting is a new tech bull market. Expects $1 trillion of incremental spend over the next decade. $1 trillion. Well, that might be good for hedge funds, for companies, for the industries, but how does it affect consumers? Generative AI is all the rage right now, but the AI boom is not all hype. Something I call a 1995 moment compared to the internet. It refers to how technological advancements are changing the way humans live. This is the key, changing the way humans live, work, and relate to one another. Well, if AI creeps into employment, it's going to change the way you work. All right. It might change the way if you work at all. And it might make it very difficult to have some jobs that can be replaced by artificial intelligence. In fact, it kind of already is. It's killing the old web. Now, you may not think that the old web and the internet is really that big a deal. You only use it when you're online. Like right now, you're watching a video, or you go on YouTube, or you go on Facebook, or you're using the internet. When you're away from it, you're not using the internet. But the internet is everywhere. It's changing the economy of the web, making it cheaper to generate low quality content. Here's where it's really going to kick in. If you are any kind of consumer, you are used to having certain real world service from a company or a person. If AI can generate what they call junkification of Amazon and shitification of TikTok, whole spam sites, AI generated junk, if that's going to be everywhere, it's just going to lower the quality of experience with anything internet. But the internet is everywhere. In fact, there was an ad placed, a job posting, looking for an AI editor, meaning that they wanted to hire somebody to be the editor of articles using artificial intelligence. The expected output was 250 articles per week. So look, if you talk to any journalist or a person working in creating content, maybe they spin out 2 or 3 articles a day, right? So 3 articles a day, 5 days a week might be 15 articles a week. Well, now they want that person to generate 250 articles per week. How many can you read? Right? If 100 companies are spitting out 250 articles a week, that's 25,000 articles a week. Who's going to read them? At some point, it's just going to be lost in the you know, the ether, lost in the fray. And what's going to happen is people are not going to be able to reach real people anymore. Not going to be able to get content written by an actual human. Hence the website, Actual Human. This is going to change little by little. You're not going to recognize it. You're already talking to chatbots, AI. You're talking to automated systems. You're not necessarily getting real people interacting with you. Probably already see it. It started with voicemail, phone trees. What are your thoughts on dealing with technology? Would you rather deal with an actual human or with an automated system? And you might say, well, automated system, but wait, before you say that, some people like dealing with a real person. Some people prefer not to. You know, sometimes if you go to Home Depot and you want to find the faucet for yourself, when the employee comes up to you and says, "Can I help you?" No, I don't want your help. I want to find it. It might be quicker for them to show you where it is, but sometimes you don't want that. You don't want to have to talk to a person. Some people want to be on their own. But on the other hand, you want expert assistance. So which is better? Take a quick break again, and we'll be back momentarily with some discussion on legal conflicts. And we have one more touch on electric vehicles and how it might be affecting the military industry, where military security might be threatened by electric vehicles, and military bases might have a very serious threat of attack because of electric vehicles. Back to that in 1 second. All right, that was fast. So here we have a new revelation from the military that says threats to military bases come from electric vehicles. Why is that? Well, it's real simple. EVs are heavier, accelerate quicker, and forces redesign of defenses. And so here's what happens. When you're a military base or any secure facility, you have to prevent an attack using a vehicle. So somebody's driving a vehicle and they can build up a lot of speed and smash through your gate. You have to defend against that. So first of all, you have to have strong gates. One of the ways they do it is to use physics to know what the speed of acceleration could be. A vehicle is not going to be able to accelerate to 60 miles an hour unless they have a certain amount of running room, maybe 100 feet, 200 feet. So they make vehicles go through an S-curve approach before they get to the gate, so that way they know they're not going to be going that fast. They also know what the weight of a vehicle is. So how much force can a vehicle put on a bollard or put on a fence or put on a post? They have that all calculated in these military bases. And they have a picture of one here. This is Offutt. Vehicles here. They have batteries that weigh 3,000 or 4,000 pounds plus the weight of the vehicle, and they can accelerate instantly. Instead of taking 0 to 60 in 8 seconds, they can do 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds. So the distance they need is a lot shorter. So they may have to redesign a lot of these military bases, costing millions of dollars because of electric vehicles as being a potential threat. So now the last subject is litigation. everybody at some point in their life has some kind of conflict with another person, a company, lawsuit, divorce, whatever it is. And one way to resolve it is to go to court, have a judge, jury, hear all the arguments, hear the case, and issue a ruling. But that takes a lot of money, right? A typical case through litigation is six figures, 90,000, 100,000, 120 for a basic case. If it gets complicated, it could easily be 200 grand. Ask any attorney. One of the things that celebrities use, a lot of high profile people use, is mediation. And it has a few advantages beyond just the cost. One is privacy. So this is an article about two very famous, celebrities that had a trial. But more often than not, these are handled with a confidential settlement through mediation, third-party mediation. Why is that important? Well, mediation is when the two parties have a go-between, a mediator, that is not like an arbitrator. An arbitrator is basically like a judge. If you hire an arbitrator, they tell you, what the result is, and you have to abide by it. It's what's called a binding arbitration. Mediator is somebody who hears both sides. You can tell them things in confidence. Everything that's said to a mediator is confidential with a few exceptions. And they'll tell you what they think is going to happen. They'll say, look, here's the reality of your case. You might think this is what's going to happen, but this is the reality. And they tell the other person the same thing. Having seen everything that happens in court, they know what the logical conclusion is going to be with the court. And they'll tell you, look, here's where you already agree. Usually two parties already have agreement on 90% of a case. They just don't know it. So the mediator will first identify that existing agreement. Then the other 10%, they'll say, well, you might think this is going to happen, but it's not. And they do it in a way where it takes away the confrontation between both parties having to be face to face. It also takes away from the fact that you don't want to say things in open court that are confidential, because mediation is confidential. It also is your last chance as a litigant, as a conflict person, to have the results be within your power. Because once you go to court, it's out of your hands. Whatever the court says, you have to abide by. With mediation, if the mediator says, I think you should do this, you can say, heck with you, I don't want to do it. You can walk away from mediation anytime you want and come up with your own solution. But according to the American Bar Association, which are attorneys, mediation is the fairest way to resolve civil cases. And it's increasingly common. It's what's called shuttle diplomacy. What shuttle diplomacy means is that mediator goes back and forth between the two sides, so you don't have to face each other and use that anxiety, that anger, that spite, that revenge, that vengeance to ramp up the level of conflict. You want to lower the level of conflict. A mediator does that because they don't have a stake in it, right? They can be a neutral third party, and they also can know how to de-escalate something. Many times, the reason that a conflict keeps getting worse is because one or both parties, they want their day in court. They want to prove something to the other side, or they want to say something to the public. And in reality, that's just going to cost you time and money. Even attorneys who get paid to do a full-blown litigation, they don't like the process. When they get done with a court case, even if they made $100,000 in legal fees, they don't walk away saying, yeah, that was great, I made $100,000. They're like, it was barely worth it, because it takes a lot out of you. It's very draining, emotionally draining. Even the work up to a court case is draining. So if you're a party to any kind of conflict, first thing you should do, talk to your attorney, say, look, how can we arrange a mediation? It's worth a try. It usually only costs a few $100s. It's not that expensive. And if the other party is hesitant, just tell them, look, just show up, right? You don't have to say anything. You don't have to do anything. You can sit there like a grumpy Gus and not do anything. At least hear it out. Doesn't make you a weaker party. Doesn't make you a stronger party. Anything you say in mediation, they can't go back and use it in court. In most cases, check with your attorney. Your attorney will probably also recommend it. If you say, I want to do this, they're going to say, yes, please do. You might think it's the same as negotiating a settlement, but remember, if your attorneys are negotiating, it's one step different from the conflicting parties negotiating, right? Your attorney represents you. They have to advocate for you. They have to fight for you. The other party's attorney has to fight for them. So yeah, you and the other party aren't duking it out fighting, but your attorneys are, and it's still a fight. There may be less animosity. There may be less personality to it. The attorney doesn't take it as personal as you do, but there's still a conflict. There's not a neutral party in the middle trying to sort it out. It's still two fighting parties, right? The leading player in these real life dramas is the mediator, called a neutral. It's called alternative dispute resolution by neutral. And it's a huge opportunity for litigants. It's not very well known. A lot of people don't jump to it. High profile people, look, this is what the article says. Celebrities avoid costly and embarrassing litigation. Celebrities do it. The reason that private people don't do it is because they don't know about it. A lot of courts are now requiring it before you show up in court. They won't even let you in a courtroom unless you say, hey, I tried mediation, didn't work. Okay, fine, come to court. But it almost never happens. If you try mediation, you'll probably walk away much happier than if you went to court, and less poor, because you won't have $50,000 in legal fees. And in some cases, if you lose, you have to pay the other side's legal fees. And even if you win, what you end up winning might not even pay back what you spent in legal fees and what you lost in years of anxiety going back and forth. At least consider it. There's mediators all across the country. You can find one anywhere. Use it as a resource. For how much it costs, it's less than 1 week's worth of paying your attorney. And it could save months of time on your case. So that wraps it up for another episode. We're going to give you an opportunity to hear more about Actual Human having access to licensed experts in various fields. I know one of the things that people run into now is it's very tough to get a real person on the phone to talk about anything of importance. You either get a receptionist that really doesn't know anything, or you get voicemail, or you get a salesperson that just tries to slam dunk you and sell you into something. And this is an option where you can get some expert consultation. And, you know, many companies offer free consultation, but that's the company trying to sell you something. So is it going to be the same unbiased? People get a second opinion all the time when they have some serious medical event happening. It might be worth getting a second opinion for other things like legal cases, insurance, building, contracting, insurance, or we said insurance, but maybe even cyber defense. It's worth talking to somebody that can give you some good insights. But at least you know it's there. You know it's an option. And we'll see you on the next video.
Are you tired of automated systems and chatbots when you need assistance? Experience actualhuman.com and connect with real professionals, not automation. At actualhuman.com, we bring you a network of professionals who are excited to answer your questions and provide guidance. Getting started is easy. Let us show you how. Here's how it works. Step 1. Select the best date and time for your video call. Step 2. Describe your situation and the areas you're looking for advice. Step 3. Connect one-on-one with an expert and get the undivided attention that you deserve. Experience the difference. Visit actualhuman.com today and schedule